Hey, in today's video, we're going to be using the Java CLI in Domo to create an append data flow, and this will help eliminate a lot of the headaches that we feel when we create traditional recursive data flows in Domo. So to start off, I'm going to show a normal traditional recursive data flow. This is a pretty simple one, right? But basically the idea is that we are appending new rows onto the old rows of the data set, running it through, and this creates a new output. And so the problem with this is if we come back here to our history, we can see that it started off being pretty performant, but over time, it degrades and becomes slower and slower. Now, this 33 seconds may not seem long, but what if this data set was 10 times bigger? What if we ran it for a year, right? In this case, these times are going to be a lot different. And so we can see here, the reason why Domo takes longer is because it's inputting more data. So it's taking data from Vault, which is the durable storage that Domo has. It's putting it into the Magic ETL engine, and then it's having to run all of that through the pipes, right? So in this case, with this ETL, it's loading it all in and then appending it together, putting it back out to Vault, and that can take a lot of time. And so for a very simple snapshot like this, what we can actually do is we can create a snapshot, and we're going to use the Java CLI to update the definition of this data flow file to become an append data flow. Right now, as it sits, this is just going to replace every time, right? So in this case, this data set here that has like 100,000 lines would just replace itself over and over again. So it's not going to work until we update it. But the reason it's going to be faster is because it's only going to be inputting the required rows from the new data set and then outputting it quickly to Vault. So we're going to be able to bypass the step of having to load in all those old files. And so let's just do this real quick. Let's start. I'm going to create, I'm in a test instance, so I only have a couple data sets, but I'm going to come in here and create a new Magic ETL. And we're going to make this very easy. All we're going to do is we're just going to output it to itself, drag it out here. We'll just call this test. And then we're going to save and run it so that we can have an output data set. Save and run. Looks good. Okay, so now it's ran. And in this case, right, with this first run, it just took 14 seconds. And so if I kept on running this would not give us an append data flow, right? We would just keep on running it over and over again, and it would just keep on replacing the data. So we would lose the old data. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the CLI, and I am going to come over here to my VS Code. And in this case, I've already logged into the CLI. If you have questions about that, go check out my previous video. But in this case, I'm going to type in help. And the command I'm looking for is list data flows. And so in this case, what I can do is I can pass an I flag of the data flow numbers. In this case, this is 3, and I can actually save the JSON definition file to a file here. So in this case, I'm going to go list data flow, pass the I flag 3, and then the file flag, and let's call this append.json. Cool. Now it says it got appended. So in this case, this is what I was talking about. I really like VS Code because now what I can do is I can come up here and I can right click this and say format document, and it pretties up our JSON document. So this here, I'm not going to pretend to understand all of this, but this here is our definition of the Magic ETL. In this case, you can see, right, it gives us X and Y coordinates. So in this case, for each of the boxes that we create, it'll give you X, Y coordinates. So kind of fun. But in this case, the only thing that we need to look for is we can see that, load from vaults. Let's see, if we scroll down here, we can see version chain type is replace. I'm actually going to change this to append. And then I'm going to come down once more and change the last output to append as well. And now let's save this file. And so basically what this is going to do is this is going to change the data flow from replace to append. And so now what I'm going to do is I can use another command, which is set data flow properties. And I actually forgot what I need to pass. So I'm going to go and use my nifty help command. And we'll go help set data flow properties. And let's see how this works. Okay, set a Domo data flow property. So data flow, and then D is the file path. Okay, cool. So now let's do this again. Set data flow properties, I flag of 3, and then the file path is append.json. So now it'll execute, and it looks like it worked out well, but what I always do is I like to resave this append.json to make sure that the append's saved. And so I'm going to do the list data flow one more time. and I'm going to pass it back. And now let's see if we come back to here. Let's format this, and let's just make sure that the append's saved correctly. Let's see. Okay, looks good. Awesome, looks good, cool. So now if we come back here, now let's run it. So we're gonna run our data set. Okay, so just finished running. Again, took just 15 seconds. If I come here, if I come to our data set, we should expect the output to double, right? So we should expect it to be almost 400K. And so, yep, now if I open it up, I can see that I now have a data set that is much bigger than the first one. And so let's just run it again, just as another example. Come back to the history tab. Okay, we can see it's remaining performant, right? So this is 14 seconds, and if I come back here and refresh, we can see that it appended another 187K rows onto this. So this is an example how this is going to be a much more performant data set over time. And I actually did a quick test here where this is the slow one. This is our traditional recursive. And we can see it starts off at 17 seconds and then grows to 33 with an output of 2.3. I did a test where I came back and I did this append data set. So if I come here to the fast one and come to history, we can see it stays at 16 or 15 seconds constantly, and it outputs the same large data set, right? So in this case, this kind of proves that append data flows are going to be much more performant than your traditional recursive data flow. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is that if you are on the beta for partitions in Magic ETL, this actually just became a whole lot easier for you, because now if I come over here to my Dojo instance, it's just as easy as coming to the data set right here and changing it from, it'll start off as replace, but changing it to append and then saving the data flow and running it. And it's that much easier. So if you're one of the lucky ones on the beta for Magic ETL, definitely would recommend doing it this way. It's going to be much easier. If you're like me and unfortunately you're on it, then you can create this fun little data flow with the Java CLI. And in this case, this is one of the very cool, this is one of the use cases that I found the Java CLI to be helpful. So hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thanks.